For example, today it's 14th of Elul. This is the name of the month in Hebrew. We have Tishrei, that is the first, and the first is in September, October. And the last one is Elul, and is also more or less in August, September. We have a lunar calendar, not solar, not solar.
Wow. Nice.
And this is like an eternal light that is always linked to remember the souls of all the...
Close to Germany.
They were from Vilnius.
They were from Vilnius. Okay.
Yeah, back then.
Interesting.
Kopczynski.
Yeah, exactly.
Kopczynski también.
No, eso no lo sé.
Kopczynski, it's
Fast
like it
light.
could be Kopczynski's.
No, the Fastlicht is Polish.
Wow.
We have also here, I think so, is this. It's a Torah.
Entonces, 50 años atrás fundamos esta congregación. Yo nací en Argentina, pero mi papá vino de Rusia Blanca, de Starovin, un pueblo Starovin en Minsk, Gubernia.
Okay.
En Minsk, pero vivió el abuelo muchos años.
His grandfather lived for many
My
years.
grandfather lives in Vilna.
In Vilnius.
En Vilnius. Mi papá vino a Argentina. He came to Argentina. I was born in Argentina. I became a rabbi there and also a cantor. I devote myself to cantorial, to liturgical music. Ahora que me nombraron emeritus.
Now that he's the honorary cantor, basically.
Yes. Dedico todo a rescatar la música judía de los pueblos y
In Vilnius.
sí,
No, he's rescuing. He's trying to rescue. His project
all
is to
over
rescue
Europe.
all of the shtetl Jewish music all over Europe. Many of them probably in Lithuania.
Sí. Because 4 years ago, no sé si tengo, me invitaron de Israel a dar ese mismo concierto de música judía.
He was invited to give another concert of Jewish music.
In
Lithuania.
Oh, yeah.
That's the program.
Yeah, exactly.
Israeli Bonds Organization. We do a tour in Lituania, and I performed the ceremony in Ponirai, together with the foreign minister of Lituania, el ministro de Relaciones
¿En qué año fue? What year was that?
Esto fue en el año
2007.
So it had to be Vaitiekūnas
Yo creo que sí. Él dio el main el keynote address.
He was the main speaker.
The main speaker y el embajador de Israel en Lituania, Gen Ivry se llamaba.
The ambassador of Israel in Lithuania was also
Él
there.
también
He
dio
also
uno de
spoke.
los discursos. Y yo hice toda la ceremonia.
But he made the whole ceremony.
And we perform a Shabbat dinner, a Sabbath dinner, Friday night, en lo que es aquí donde está Ebrard, ¿cómo se llama?
¿Del Zócalo?
No, el Palacio de Gobierno de la ciudad, ¿cómo se llama?
La casa.
The City Hall of Vilnius.
Yes, yes, one of the nice places.
Nice place. We perform a service, a religious service, and then a Shabbat dinner. And then tomorrow, I perform all the service in the big synagogue, where the concert is.
Yes.
But a year later, the Jewish community of Vilnius, with Mr. Shimon Alperovich, you know
personally, yes.
And the young one, Shimele,
Yes.
you know him?
Yes.
So we are very, very close friends. Very, very close friends.
Well, maybe we can talk about the Jewish history of Lithuania.
So our history is the same. Lithuanian history is Lithuania, the history of Lithuanian Jews, and all those who lived in this big state that was the biggest in the Middle Ages. Only France was bigger. than us. From Baltic Sea to Black Sea, Lithuanians, Tatars, Jews, Ukrainians, Belarusians, Poles, who now define themselves like this. But if you would ask, for example, me, who was I, in 18th century, it would be difficult. I have Polish, Lithuanian, and Tatar blood. But I can see Tatar, yes, because Tatars were like Swiss for Pope. We've been defending Lithuanian Knights, so we still serve Lithuania, and Lithuanian Knights invited Jews to come to Lithuania in 14th century, and from that moment, from the beginning of our state, they were part of story. They were always together in small cities and big cities, and we've been living in harmony for 500 years. Then, by the end of 18th century, we've been so brave that we get the freedom virus from America, and we invented first written constitution in our great state with all liberal rights. And then we've been attacked by three empires, Russia, Prussia, and Austria, and they divided us. That was the beginning of our occupation, and beginning of the end of our story. Then in 19th century, every nation started to be very national, and they defined themselves in a very narrow way. That was the beginning, I think, of all our tragedies, and we paid a high price, everybody. When those, after this national state, we had the atrocities of the Second World War, when then 95% of Jewish community was just killed, and it's very difficult for us modern Lithuanians to kind of go into those pages of the history, because you should understand that during Soviet period this truth was absolutely hidden. We didn't know that, and now when we rediscovered it, we feel like a generation after the Second World War. It's very difficult to recognize, that part of Lithuanians were also taking part in those atrocities, and we are very sorry for that. But we are a new generation who want to rebuild that harmony. We've been working hard. Myself, I was diplomat for 18 years, and the whole my life I was integrating my country into European Union. I was deputy chief negotiator. I was coordinating a lot of negotiations. Now I'm in Washington. But when we entered European Union and NATO, we understood that, well, this is just maybe the beginning of the path. Inside the elite club of nations, we have to redefine us and to find the way how we've been living in harmony for 500 years. And that's immediately two nations, that came into our mind, Poland and Jewish community, it's part of us. We have to recognize, what happened during the Second World War, but by recognizing it, we want to say, look, it happened. We want to do everything it never happens again. But that's why we have to build this harmony, or rebuild that harmony that existed. So my government, it was a very difficult process. We have some other nations who are not happy that we're doing it, because they want us to be very narrow. Because when you have very narrow an identity, you can play these identities against each other. But our government started to make a lot of steps to re-establish it. Well, I still remember my second president, Brazauskas, coming to Israel and publicly kind of expressing all the sorrow we could have with the tragedy that happened. But one thing is to apologize, another thing to reconstruct the past. So this summer, my parliament, after big discussion, was able to pass the law on restitution of Jewish community property. And this year is called officially the Remembrance Year of the Holocaust victims. Each ministry, each municipality had its own kind of task to perform, to rebuild, Paneriai monument where Vilnius ghetto was destroyed. We have great projects. I think they will take decade to realize. Like we found the remnants of big synagogue in Vilnius. That was the biggest in the region. That was the center of religious education.
I saw a picture of a beautiful synagogue.
Yeah, that was the biggest in the region. So we want to maybe even to kind of rebuild it.
Was
or
it
at
burnt?
least
Was it?
it was destroyed by Soviets. It was still functioning during the war. It kind of survived, but Soviets first turned it into some kind of store, and then completely. Because we have to understand that during Soviet occupation, Jewish culture was physically deleted. Kind of, they closed all schools. Hebrew was, also kind of deleted from the language. No center, anything was left. So we have just 20 years period now to reestablish everything. We want to get Jewish festivals back to Vilnius. We want to get the remnants of Vilnius ghetto still memorized. We have to leave it for generations in order they have to know what happened.